Welcome back to the top-down shooter tutorial. We are still in Blender creating our character model here. In this video, we're going to create the armature or the bone system and rig it up so that our character can be fully posed and animated. We could do the animations in Blender, which we're going to, but you could also do them in Godot using the methods that we looked at earlier in the video series. So what we're going to do here, I'm going to go into front view, and if your model does not if your model looks like this in front view, you're going to need to rotate it because one of the functions we're going to use, which is called symmetrize, only works in front view. One other thing, I'm going to right click on this and set my origin to geometry. I noticed that the origin was down here on the leg for some reason. So having said that, you can also go into front view by clicking up here or number 1 on the keypad. So the keypad is the keyboard to the right hand side. If you don't have that, you might have to look up a tutorial on how to emulate a keypad on Blender. I think it's in the settings somewhere, and you can use the numbers along the top there. So we're in front view here, and I'm in object mode, and I'm going to add in an armature. Now before I do anything else, I'm going to go down to the object data properties here and open up the viewport display tab and click on in front. That's going to bring it here so we can see this armature through the rest of the model. Now before we go any further, I'm going to go back to layout mode, and we're just going to work in here. I will put on the preview mode so we can see our skin. So going back into front view, we don't need the UV map anymore. We're going to get this armature and move it up to about here. And then go into edit mode for the armature. So you can hit tab to go into edit mode. I'm going to select this bone and scale it up a little bit. Then I'm going to select this top node and extrude it out along the Z-axis. But I'm going to then click this, and so there's a few very exact things that we want to do here. This guy doesn't have a neck, okay? He's just his head is just connected to the body. So we actually want to separate this, or otherwise things are going to go a little bit crazy later on. So to separate this bone, we click Alt-P, and we disconnect the bone. We want to keep it parented to this here, but we're going to disconnect that bone. So let's disconnect that bone and then move it up into the head. You can see that the parent still stays, it still has that connection there. So if this torso moves, the head bone will move with it. Then we're going to click back on here and hit E, extrude it out this way. You would think we would do a shoulder. Not so in this case. In a normal model, we probably would. But in Minecraft Joe model, no, we don't. So we're going to once again disconnect that bone, hit G, bring it up to here and rotate it so it's like that. Okay, it doesn't have to be exact, but we want this point here to be roughly halfway down the arm. The top point doesn't have to be there anyway. We're just doing the right hand side, by the way. Now I'm just going to extrude this one down to the hand. We're not going to disconnect that. That is going to be connected to that other bone. Now we're going to select this node here again, hit E, and I'm going to disconnect it, Alt-P, disconnect that bone. I'm actually going to clear the parent for this one, and I'll show you why later on. But we're going to move this down to the top of the leg. I'll rotate it so it's kind of up and down. Top of the leg, this should be roughly at the knee, and then I'll extrude it down to the foot. Okay, so with all this done, we need to name these bones appropriately. So we're going to click on this one and hit F2. This is going to be the spine. F2, this is the head. And here's the important part. F2, upper arm dot L. This is going to be the left arm. I know it's looking like the right arm, but it's actually his left, so we're going to put it as the left arm. Okay, now that dot L is going to mean that we can symmetrize this armature and kind of mirror it exactly. So this is going to be lower arm dot L. The first part doesn't matter. I could call it forearm, I could call it wrist, I could call it anything, but that's the dot L on the end that matters. Upper leg dot L, and then F2 lower leg dot L. Now select this whole armature, A, or draw a box around it, right click it and click on symmetrize, which is there. It'll just move it over the other side. It will be exact. Now, as long as your armature here is in the middle, it won't be a problem. Now, what we need to do from here is go back into object mode, select our Minecraft Joe, select our armature, and hit Control P. Now, if you've watched other tutorials, you'll see that they often pick with automatic weights. And in a more organic model, that would work really well, because generally you want the shoulder to move with the shoulder here to move with the shoulder blade here. And you want the head to move with the neck, but in this case we don't. So we're going to weight paint this manually. We're going to just add with empty groups. Now, if you don't see this, it means you selected the wrong thing. So you probably selected the armature first, and you don't see those things. So select the body first, and then select the armature, Control P with empty groups. Okay, now we can go into selecting the body, go into weight paint mode, and I'm just going to deselect everything. This is really important here. Double tap A to deselect everything, tap A to select everything. But over here on the right hand side, we're going to go up to our little property manager, click the armature, click the cube, whatever it's called, and click on vertex groups. And we're going to weight paint these manually. So we're going to select the head, and we're going to do the weight painting for the head. This is the bone. Okay, so this vertex group is mapped to this bone. It's automatically done it for us, so that's really handy. Now to select this head, I'm going to turn on this here, paint mask, which means I can then go down to this, select box, and hit L to select the bone. One thing that I've already done actually that you will need to do is go back to object mode, go into edit mode, hit A, Control E, and clear any seams. So we don't need the seams anymore, just clear any seams on there. And then I'll go back into one, and I'll go back to weight paint mode, and I'm just going to deselect that, hit L to select the head. So I've got the head here. Now we're going to use the gradient tool for this, and I'm actually going to draw a gradient from the top and the bottom. It should go red, okay? So draw from the top and the bottom, it's going to go red. What this means is that all vertices in the head are going to react the same way to the bone movement. Okay, so if the bone rotates, the whole head will rotate. If we only did it from the top down, if the bone rotates, the top will rotate and the bottom will not rotate, and his head will twist around. It could be kind of creepy, but it's not what we want. So we want the whole head to be red. And it should be fine. But I'm going to turn on X-ray mode just in case. Okay, but you can look around and make sure that it actually did it on all the sides. So that's the head done. I'm just going to work my way down. So this is the lower arm, L. Now it doesn't actually select over here, but I'm going to unselect that and select the arm. So the lower arm dot left is this one here, and I'm going to bring a gradient up from about there, pretty much to the top, like that. And then I'm going to do the same thing for the other side. I'll make sure that that mapped around evenly. Yep, it did. Okay, so I won't check that every time now. Now lower arm right, deselect everything, select that arm, and map a gradient up from the top to the bottom. Bottom to the top. Lower leg, L. So L is actually the right hand side, remember that. So I'll map that up there. And then lower leg R. That looks all right. I'll just check it every now and then. The spine. Now the body, I actually want to fully deform. So I'm going to select the whole body, and I'm just going to go a gradient from top to bottom and then bottom to top. The upper arm, L. So I'll select the left upper arm, and I'm going to draw a gradient from top all the way down to bottom. And then do the same for the upper arm right. Top all the way down to bottom. And repeating this, upper leg L, top to bottom, and then upper leg R, top to bottom. Now that's pretty much done. Now what we can do is go back to object mode, switch over to our armature, and click on pose mode. And we can just test this out. I'm going to turn that off. So I'll test this arm here. I should be able to rotate this arm along the x-axis just by itself. That's pretty good. If I select this bone, I should be able to rotate along there just by itself. There is some deformation around here, but remember this is going to be top down. We're not actually going to see it. If I select this head, you see the head will rotate up and down, and the whole head rotates. If I select Z, ooh, I'm not sure what I've selected there, RZ, it will turn that way. This spine, RX, tilt forward, tilt back. And it can also rotate left and right. You'll notice that it's not parented to these bones, and so those don't move with it, but the arms do, and so does the head. Okay, so the arms move with it. The leg, RX, well, that moves perfectly. And then I can pose this here, like that. And then this one. Yep. So just testing all these different bones out, making sure that they work. I didn't mean to do that. RX, RX again. All right, so we've got what looks like the start of a running animation. Okay, in the next video, we're going to look at creating some animations, and then we'll be going back into Godot.